People are losing money. They're throwing money away.
There's about to be this humongous wealth transfer. And what's really interesting is just how few people have done that strategically.
I'm going to inherit ideally some money or maybe some property, but I'm also going to inherit a tax bill. There is a massive transfer of wealth already happening, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
There's a $1 trillion wealth transfer happening across Canada right now, and families and homeowners have not prepared for it properly. Every day, families are losing homes, getting hit with massive tax bills, or ending up in legal battles, all because they never had one simple conversation. Most people just assume that they will inherit their parents' wealth or property. But what they don't realize is that without the right planning, half of it could be gone before they even get a chance to touch it. So today I've invited a wealth and financial expert to help me and you better understand the one mistake that could cost you and your family tens of thousands of dollars, as well as the steps that you should take right now to help avoid it. To help us make sense of it all, I've invited Lane Cuthbert of Lane Cuthbert Financial to give us a complete rundown on how, whether you are inheriting property or planning on leaving property to your kids, you are going to definitely want to know these strategies and tips.
You only get one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right.
So here's the problem. I've seen this happen far too many times in my career. A family loses a parent. They're in the middle of grieving. And then suddenly they're hit with the reality of having to sort out an estate, one they knew absolutely nothing about. Their parents never talked about money. It felt taboo. It was awkward. We'll deal with it when the time comes, they thought. But when that moment arrives, it's already too late. And here's the kicker, and the absolute worst part. The parents probably scraped and saved their entire lives planning to leave an inheritance, whether that was property or financials, to their kids, and they have no idea that even how hard they worked, they have not set them up for success, and a monstrous portion of what they plan to give away is going to go to tax. The home they worked so hard to pass down, gone. The money they saved, eaten up by taxes and legal fees. And the kids who assumed they'd be taken care of, now they're stuck scrambling, selling assets, and sometimes giving away more than their fair share. If you're relying on your parents' nest egg to set you up, but you haven't had this conversation with them, you could be walking into a monstrous mess. So to help us break this down a little further, first we have to understand exactly what the problem is.
The baby boomer generation was the largest demographic that Canada had ever seen. It was the largest generation. And they were coming out of these really hard times. So the baby boomers have made a massive amount of wealth because we went into this economic boom as the baby boomers were going through all their wealth accumulation phase. And now baby boomers, over the last 10 years, there was this big push that baby boomers are retiring in the droves every single year in Canada. And now we're 10 years across, and now all these baby boomers are like 75, 80 years old, and they're starting to get into the estate planning side of things. And since the baby boomer generation was the largest demographic, they all had kids. And so guess where that leaves us, is the millennials being the next massive generation, because they are the kids of the boomer generation. And so there's about to be this humongous wealth transfer. And what's really interesting is just how few people have done that strategically. Right. So while boomers are living, they're thinking, I gotta make sure that I reduce my taxes as much as possible, responsibly putting money into my RSP and saving and tax strategies. And then as soon as they go to pass away, they don't seem to do any tax planning whatsoever. They just go, whatever happens, happens, because I'm gone. And they don't realize that like half of the wealth that they've accumulated is going to go to taxes without the proper planning in place. And their kids end up missing out.
Whether you're a parent or you have parents, there's no doubt that your parents are aging. We want to think about wealth transfer, not only what might be in the bank or stocks or investments, but we also want to think about the property that they own right now, the property that they have likely proudly taken care of for years and years. Unfortunately, this involves a really awkward conversation because so often at times it's really taboo, especially in our culture, to have conversations with your parents about passing away, but also about finances. The problem with not having this awkward conversation is you might end up inheriting a lot more than you think.
Yeah, well, I mean, in that wealth accumulation phase, all the baby boomers were working with their financial advisor. And so you're right, a lot of the boomer generation feels like, I can't tell my kids, what my salary is or how much I get paid. And that makes sense when there's like a parent-kid dynamic. But at some point, like, these millennials are now into their 30s, into their 40s. They're well established in their careers. They have homes of their own. They're not just like these little kids that maybe shouldn't be told this information anymore. They have a mutual understanding and respect as another adult to say, I know what it's like to make that amount of money. We need to get on the same page. You know, I'm not going to think less of you if you make less than I do, right? The financial landscape has changed drastically. So transparency needs to enter the conversation, but the boomers have been having this conversation with their financial advisors who they've been working with for 30 or 35 years. And I'll tell you that we're running into a real financial advisor problem in the industry. And that is financial advisors. It's sort of like a two-pronged problem. The first is that financial advisors have no motivation to retire. It's 71 and a half.
Wow.
And people are always shocked to hear that. But the reason it is 71 and a half is because financial advisors get paid for managing assets under management, right? So the total size of assets that they manage on the investment side, they get paid every year just for maintaining that book. And so I'll pull the curtain back on how the industry works. A lot of older financial advisors, they build up this massive business, and then they have no motivation to retire because they can, if they ever go to sell the book, they can usually only sell it for 2 to 3 times what it generates on an annual basis. Okay. So an advisor that's 71, that feels healthy, they go, why would I take 3 years worth of pay when I could just continue to hold on to this book for another 10 years and then just continue to get paid? And if it continues to grow, you know, it's got momentum that they're going to continue to get pay raises every single year that they just keep the book as assets under management. So these advisors don't really feel motivated to retire. And then as they get older and their paycheck grows more and more because they're managing more assets, the second problem that they run into is they're not really motivated to work that hard anymore either. So they don't want to put in 40 hours a week. They kind of want to work 10 to 15 hours just checking in with clients, doing portfolio reviews, and then they want to be on the golf course, they want to be fly fishing, doing whatever they love, because they don't need to actually be on the grinding stone punching out 40 to 60 hour work weeks trying to grow the business.
Aging financial planners, lack of motivation from those financial planners, and lack of understanding what your parents' intentions were from the get-go. If you're not involved in the solutions or the plans of what your parents wanted, or if you're a parent, what your kids wanted, you don't want it to be too late. You want to make sure that the planning is in place and that anyone inheriting the wealth is getting as much value as they can from the aging financial planner. Because if they don't, this creates problems for the people inheriting the assets.
If you've been with them for a long time and they've made estate planning a part of their practice from the very beginning, you, as a boomer, you might have some of that planning in place, but the question that you got to be asking yourself is, at what point do you think your advisor is going to retire? And as their book continues to grow, there's a good chance that younger and younger advisors aren't going to be able to afford whatever multiplier that this advisor wants when they go to sell the book. And so the only people who will actually entertain purchasing their book is some massive conglomerate that only deals with high net worth individuals. And so if you are in the bottom half of that book, you become insignificant when you get sold off. And then your name isn't known, your plan isn't known, and then no one's walking you through your financial plan. And if you're not having a conversation with your kids about what your wishes are and how you want to transfer your wealth, this advisor, this new advisor, if you get one, doesn't have a clue what the plan is. And now it's just sort of like, it's up to the will. And it's up to, depending, I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but the Wills and Succession Act in BC, it's like very easy to contest wills. And then it's up to challenge. So even if you write wishes in a will, if somebody challenges the estate, it goes to the court, and then the court decides how your assets get distributed. Even though you took the time and the money to actually spell it out in the will, you're not guaranteed to actually get that if you don't involve people in the process.
So what is the solution to all this? Whether you're a parent or have aging parents looking to leave your wealth to your children, well, you need to take this seriously. You need to think about your investments. You need to think about your home, and you need to think about having that really awkward talk with the people that you care about.
It's time for kids to have the talk with their parents and say, hey, listen, a time is coming. You are getting older. No one likes to face their mortality, but wouldn't it be so much better if we do it from a from a position of gratitude and love to say, you've worked so hard. I want to recognize that, but I want to make sure that it gets transferred as efficiently as possible. It's not because I'm like counting down the clock and desperately waiting for you to pass away and I need your wealth. It's like, no, I have a career. I have a job. I have my own kids at this point. Just let me help you go through this. And it might be one of those awkward conversations that kids need to talk to their parents.
Planning this all properly could be the difference of having your parents' plans actually come to fruition, or having your wishes for your wealth be transferred over to the people that you love effectively in the most tax efficient and financial advantageous way. And this way, you can take full advantage of a lifetime of hard work, scrimping, saving, just to improve your family's lives. As you've seen by the conversation with Lane, solutions, they are available, but it starts with the conversation. Now, I've linked the full video interview with Lane in the description of this video. There's no doubt that anybody likes giving away more money than they have to. And this isn't the only example of where people are so blind to giving away money to the people that really don't need it, accidentally or completely unknowingly. In the video coming up next, which is actually part 3 of a 6-video series all about buying a home, I'm gonna let you know one of the sneaky ways that the bank gets in your pockets in a way that you never thought possible. Understanding this is critical to not giving away more money when you buy a home than you have to. If you're interested in buying a home, there is the full video series available, but for now, we're gonna see you over on day 3, where we're gonna discuss one of the biggest secrets the bank doesn't want you to know. I'll see you over on the next video.